Miles Atkinson in Khurog, the capital of Tajikistan's autonomous region Gorno-Badakhshan. And these are the Pamirs, one of the most remote mountain ranges on Earth, with peaks going up well above 7,000 meters. Alexander the Great, the players of the Great Game, and the Soviet Army are among those who've crossed these mountains. The Pamirs have been given the moniker, the roof of the world, and the high-altitude majesty is unlike anything else on Earth. The mountains delineate the historical region called Badakhshan, which today lies in part of Tajikistan and Afghanistan. The Russian and British empires split the territory in the 19th century, and the Soviets maintained the split, militarizing the border and crafting a Soviet Pamiri identity, distinct from that of the Afghans. Badakhshan is the poorest region of Tajikistan, which is one of the poorest countries on Earth. Many here live on less than $2 a day, though the poverty does not dampen their generosity. The locals do not hesitate to invite strangers in for tea and lunch, and are proud of their cultures and home.
Мы сами таджики гостеприимная нация, мы любим всегда гостей. Кто без оружия приходил, мы всегда их встречали. Здесь люди очень добрые, и даже дети и старики приветствуют и здороваются. И самый бедный человек может пригласить на чашу чая.
We go along treacherous mountain roads, worn down by ice, mud, and spring floods. What Badakhshan lacks in infrastructure, it makes up for in breathtaking views and historical treasures. So here at Fort Kamchun from the 3rd century BC. And what's nice about Tajikistan is you're driving along, you're out in the middle of nowhere in the mountains, and you come upon a fort up on a hill. There's no signs, there's no guardrails, there's no nothing. So it's really good if you feel like you need to get off the tourist path. Afghanistan is always in sight, just over the river. The Afghan villages are visibly poor. They're mud brick houses without whitewash, most of them without electricity. The steepest slopes are planted with grain, every available inch under cultivation. The two countries are separated by a few hundred feet of river, but centuries of development. And this river here, the Pamir River, is what's dividing Tajikistan from Afghanistan. And you see it's about 30 feet from the Tajik border to the Afghan border. I'm going to throw a rock into Afghanistan. That's what I'm going to do. So we're very close to Afghanistan. On either side of the bank, the same Eastern Iranian languages are spoken. Nearly everyone in Badakhshan has relatives on the other side. The few bridges connecting the banks do little to connect the population. Except for in a few neutral zones and border markets, Tajiks and Afghans need visas to cross the border.
Да. И там не опасно?
Не опасно.
Да, здесь нормально.
Нормально. А в других Кабуле?
Да.
So this here is supposed to be a footprint of the Buddha. That's what the village people say. And it's all next to these old Buddhist caves, about 2,000 years old, carved into the mountainside. So we just ran up here with these kids, and they're all born in this little village up here in the mountains. It's already really high altitude, so I'm a bit out of breath. The road follows the river through valleys and gorges. The scenery changes constantly, from lush green hills to sand dune deserts. Where there is fresh water, villages spring from the arid dirt. Each mountain valley brings a different language, and many locals have European features with blue eyes and light hair. Petroglyphs at the village of Langar date from the Bronze Age, but passerby have been leaving their marks for centuries. You see the really old ones, they're faded, and a lot of them are of the Marco Polo sheep. And then there are more modern ones with people's names. Saw some dates from the 1980s. Leaving the Afghan border, the road gets rougher on the ascent into the High Pamirs, a plateau with snowmelt lakes that evaporate by midsummer. All greenery disappears with the altitude. The land is austere. They say that up here the wind is so strong that it carves big holes in the rocks and makes these really weird rock formations. We're up here now at about 4,000 meters or 14,000 feet. It's just a barren landscape. almost nothing growing except for a few little cactuses and then desert plants, basically. The village of Bulungkul is in a freezing high-altitude desert. A nearby lake gives fish. Sparse patches of grass give fodder for the livestock. Electric wires strung during the comparatively bountiful Soviet years now lie dead.
Электричества давно не было? Без Союза, когда?
Да. Но сколько лет жило без?
У нас без электричества.
Да. 20 лет? Понятно. О, не сложно было? Да, ну что поделать, понятно. In the surrounding mountains, Marco Polo sheep are said to roam. Their wolf-picked horns dot the landscape, but they stay out of sight. The next day I'm in the Murgab region, which the Tajiks call Mars. Expanses of rough red rock, bleached by the unending glare, are reminiscent of the American West. This final outpost of the old Soviet Empire is on the frontier with China and populated mostly by ethnic Kyrgyz. The town's centerpiece is a brilliant white statue of Lenin. The Pamirs offer an unspoiled landscape, long avoided by travelers, kept away by Soviet restriction and a brutal civil war in the 1990s. The people, followers of a distinct branch of Shia Islam called Ismailism, accept guests as a gift from God. The high valleys and plateaus of Gorno-Badakhshan are insulated from the political turmoil in Central Asia and Afghanistan. The mountains have also kept modernity at bay, a mixed blessing. Young men abandon the villages to find work in Russia, leaving women, children, and the elderly to look after farm and flock. But there is a kindness and simplicity to life here in this wild terrain, in this lush Eden.
Stepping on my toes, I think it's clear that everybody knows I don't believe